So, hello, Tom. Very
Hello.
nice to have you with us in this
Yeah,
interview.
it's
And
very special.
yeah. So, what we would like you to tell us is the first question is, how did you learn about the Stafford beer? How did you find about the Stafford beer?
I must admit, it was very late in life. Um, so I came across Stafford Beer when I started a PhD at the School of Cybernetics after a master's in trying to develop a new transdisciplinary field to deal with the advent of AI and the fourth industrial revolution, and we were trying to kind of do a new form of Macy's conference where we get a whole bunch of people from different disciplines to think about this challenge we have now. But initially, it wasn't just about cybernetics or Stafford Beer, and it was only later on when I was trying to look for a framework that sort of was cybernetics, but married with what I was interested in, which was how organizations were coordinated and managed. That I came across. Okay, this is the subfield of cybernetics that deals with organizations. I'm going to focus on that. So it was that finding that niche in the cybernetics as a whole that was matching to what I was interested in looking at. That's when I came across Stafford Beer. And I must say, though, it was a revelation to me. It was like finding treasure in a way, or lost treasure, which was kind of a both happy and sad. The happy thing was like, I found this new thing I didn't know about. The sad thing was I had also spent, you know, 7 or so years at four different universities doing double degree in Bachelor of Commerce, double majors in management and economics and economic history. Went to Europe and did a Master's of Law in Economics, another sort of transdisciplinary field that is very much about looking at what the firm does, what organizations do, institutions, governments and governance. And no one told me about cybernetics, let alone Stafford Beer. So that was the, no, so it's happy and sad. Happy, I go, oh, wow, there's another way of thinking about this stuff, which was very interesting. But the sad, I was like, why didn't anyone tell me all this time? So, yeah. So, as someone who's an economist and a big fan of Ronald Coase, who Nobel Prize winner that with his work on the theory of the firm from the 1930s. Uh, it felt like, well, Stafford has the theory of a firm, it's the brain of the firm, part of the enterprise. Like it's almost like there's two parallel worlds. We've got, what we now know as sort of Chicago economics, and I think Coase was sort of part of that. And then I guess as I discovered, since my PhD the last few years, we've got for lack of a better term, the Santiago boys and the Chicago boys. I didn't know about the other side, and it's been very interesting to know that history could have gone in different directions. And so in a way, I'm sort of rediscovering this alternative reality and trying to, I guess, apply it and revive it and use it in combination with my own training in economics and law and joining it up with different things. That was a very long answer, sorry.
No, perfect answer. Wonderful. Now, Vanilla is gonna do the second answer, the second question.
Hello, Tom.
Hello.
Nice, nice to see
Swinging
you.
around. That's a
Yes,
that's a panning shot.
yes, where we're passing the computer around. It's very Alice in Wonderlandy. So tell me, what impact Stafford's thinking has had on your work personally,
Mm,
in words.
well, this might actually cross over to question three as well. Should I say like what I'm trying to do?
Please.
Um, so what? what my work is about, and it fits into what the school was set up to do, is to find and develop new theory and praxis for helping to manage the big societal transformations that are going on. And initially, it was about technology and AI and type of physical systems and how to scale that safely, responsibly, and sustainably. But now we're broadening that out since we became School of Cybernetics. It's not just about technology. It's about other things too, like whether it's climate change or maybe geopolitics at the moment. How do we move from one place to the next? My own research, I was sort of zooming down into what I called transition intermediaries. So there are certain types of organization that kind of does this sort of shepherding and steering to mobilize larger scale change. In my case, I'm looking at the building industry and the built environment and how we go, from the cities and buildings we've had before to increasingly green buildings, increasingly healthy buildings. But I'm also looking forward to increasingly smart buildings. So what
And how would
happens?
your picture look if it were not for Stafford? What would have happened had you not run into Stafford's work?
Good question. So I would have based so my focus is on these organizations, these transition intermediaries.
Yeah.
My way of approaching organization would be based, I guess, more on what is being taught in management schools and business schools and economic schools, which is sort of based on a certain idea of what a firm is like. So the analogy is different, I guess. It won't be so much, based on an organism as much. And I
Hmm.
say it probably stems more if you trace it back to maybe like an Adam Smith widget factory. So it's more like a
Okay.
more like a machine. So a lot of our microeconomics, which is about how does the firm make decisions, is based on that idea of like a factory in a way, more so
So not
than
dealing with inclusivity and not dealing with the stuff that
yeah. Well,
yes.
not from the base. Like, you probably learn about that, like the more complex ideas that Stafford kind of built in from the start, only sort of later on.
Yeah.
And and so I guess the analogies I would be using would be different. And so it's like it's a different mindset and probably a bit more mechanistic rather than uh uh I guess a more complexity and nuance and organic way of looking at it and emphasizing especially communications channels around an organization. So
Yeah.
economics is probably not so good. I mean, there is information economics, but probably sort of left it to the management sort of side of things to look at, how do the people interact with each other in a firm. And I guess the other thing that is Stafford's systems within the VSM that is particularly of interest to me is the system 4. So the bits that are looking outward and seeing what's going on out there, which is increasingly important when the so-called game-changing technologies are coming so fast and thick.
Surely.
And I feel like this is just my view of the world and from my work experience in government and industry is that system 4 is where a lot of organizations fail down, and that's
Okay.
when
Yeah.
they fall over and
Where the trouble
play,
starts.
playing catch up all the time and dealing with crises rather than planning for
Yeah.
different futures. Yeah.
Okay, it's John's turn now. I'm going to pass you along the line. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hello, Tom.
Hey, John. I love your t-shirt.
Yeah, love your t-shirt. Okay, I'm just going to ask you to round everything off because you covered a huge amount of ground here. You've gone from neoliberalism and economic theories and all the stuff that's going on at the moment, because clearly we've got this fairly universal acceptance of neoliberal Chicago boy
Mm.
theories, and and we're we're talking about sustainability, and we're talking about the future of pretty much everything at the moment. And it's really just a summary of how important Stafford's ideas are to this transition, which I guess is what your PhD is about. So how relevant Stafford's work is to these kind of transitions.
I think it's super relevant, and I guess the key thing that I see as a system failure, economists also look at market failures as a basis for intervention. I think the emphasis on sensing and adapting and having efficient communications and coordination within organizations of all scales is critical when there is so much uncertainty and complexity in the world. And in terms of sustainability, we're on the clock. And so being adept and agile, there's a premium to not being adept and agile, and more than before, I think, because we've got tipping points and so forth. And industry, and in terms of AI, industry is racing ahead. Then going back to the neoliberal stuff, competition, fear of missing out is driving a lot of the investments in this space. The more systemic impacts, what economists would call negative or positive externalities, is again, sadly, when you don't take a systems thinking lens, someone else's problem. It's not my department, or is a future generations. And I think Stafford, in sort of really emphasizing that adaptability and quick movements is critical, especially if we want to sort of like regulate some of these harms, or stopping us walking off a cliff blindly. And yeah, I think we could all do with a bit more of that self-reflective and being, what the phrase I'm using now, so it's like being situationally aware, but also self-aware. And I think that's what I got from Stafford. And it's something that sounds commonsensical, but if that's what everyone's doing, we wouldn't be heading in the directions that we're in at the speed that we're going in.
Excellent.
Yeah.
That was great, Tom. Okay.
Yeah. Well, that's brilliant. So we're gonna stop here, and thank you very much.